of doubles, but other than that, no one has really hit him in the past. So that is Logan Webb today for the Giants. Now, the Marlins, I assume it's a bullpen game. Darren McGaughan, McGaughan. I'll let John and Dave pronounce it properly. McGaughan. He's 28 years old. He's a rookie. Not really a rookie. He's a right-hander. But this is only his 11th game and his second start in his career. He was with the Marlins. They sent him to Cleveland, and Cleveland sent him back to the Marlins. Now, since he's back with the Marlins, he's had 2 games. He's pitched 5 innings, 4 in one and 1 in another. So it sounds like he's an opener today, similar to maybe what the Giants did with Mason Black yesterday. So the Marlin bullpen is very vulnerable. It is, and you would think the Giants should have a real good chance of getting it done today. We have our contest going on Twitter at Baseball Marty. Dinner for 2 at Original Joe's. Just guess the score of today's game, Giants and Marlins. Also, we have so many participants, get between 100 200 participants all the time. Soto Mare, a wonderful restaurant in North Beach, said, we'll give a dinner for 2 also. And Raph just picks that out randomly. So if you've entered the contest, you got a shot not only to win dinner at Original Joe's, but you also, if you don't win that, you could win dinner for 2 at Soto Mare in North Beach. Richie and Laura Azolino. It's a lot of fun to eat there. So this is a good this is the best contest in the history of radio, as I used to say. Remember that for Hawaiian Airlines? That was fun. All right. So we got the setup for today, Giants and Marlins in Game 3 of this 3-game series, and see if the Giants can win a series here and stay alive. Arizona coming next. Arizona's got the Dodgers today. Robleski and Fought is there today. The Giants lefties are ready for Arizona. Arizona leads the world in scoring runs. All right, we'll talk about Arizona enough today in that Dodger game yesterday. They're coming in Tuesday night, and this season is on the line for the Giants. I would say Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That will be it. And they've got their pitchers lined up, so we'll see how that works out. All right, coming up next, Glenn Kuiper talks a little ball with us right after this. Well,
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Experience the epitome of luxury and craftsmanship with Inicio Windows and Doors, another exciting product line from BMD Manufacturing. Inicio Windows and Doors sets the standard in ultra-premium European design. Wow. For the most demanding American building standards. Available both in steel and aluminum, they are meticulously engineered to elevate your living space to new heights of sophistication. Learn more about Inicio Windows and Doors today. Discover the perfect blend of European beauty and style with unwavering durability and strength. Visit InicioWindows.com. INICIO Windows.com. Inicio Windows and Doors, where European design meets American craftsmanship. It's time for an update from River Islands in Lathrop, Northern California's fastest growing master plan community. River Islands is truly remarkable. It really is. Always welcoming quality home builders bringing in a wide variety of home styles. Right now, the community is celebrating a whole series of grand openings, introducing all new model homes in neighborhoods, on lakes, and near parks and trails. And there's even more to the River Islands story. School's in session at the 3 charter elementary schools and now at River Islands High School. The Boathouse Restaurant, I love it, serves lunch and dinner overlooking one of the community's 15 lakes. Champions Park just opened, joining a dozen other parks and playing fields. Add to that a lifestyle where the great indoors rivals the best of the great outdoors. And you can see that it's all coming together in one place, and that's River Islands. Isn't it time for you to discover the islands? Check it out at riverislands.com. You know it sure is for me.
Time now to go to Sunday school with the professor.
Hey, Professor, take it easy, will you?
Giants coach Ron Wotus with Marty Laurie.
Oh, I didn't know you wanted to get involved with the discussion, Mr. Helper.
On your home of Giants baseball.
Good answer. Like the way you think.
KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Brought to you by River Islands, one of the country's top-selling master plan communities just across the Altamont in Lathrop. Where else can you live on a lake next door to a park or walking distance to your kid's new school? With 10 new neighborhoods, River Islands is the one place you can't afford to miss.
All right, we bring in the professor on this Sunday morning. Whoa, how are you?
Marty, I'm great. I'm doing one of your favorite things. I walked this morning in the ballpark, and it's peaceful. It's quiet. I thought we were going to have fog today, according to the weather, but it's a beautiful morning, and get a chance to collect your thoughts and watch the park come to life. So I know you love that part of being here early at the ballpark.
No, it's the best part. It's Sunday baseball, too, September 1st. But when you walk in, it's the hot dog rolls, and you are amazed. I'm amazed at the amount of food they have in that ballpark.
Well, we had 2 great crowds the last 2 days, and, I don't know about everybody else, but when I go to a sporting event, I love the sport, but the food's a big part of it, too. Who doesn't like to eat, Marty?
All right. What do you eat at a stadium? Well, what's your go-to meal?
Well, whatever they have, basically. If the crab sandwich is always a great thing to have. Sometimes I'll grab some nachos as well. I always like enjoying some nachos. So it depends where you're at and what they have to offer.
All right. You're not a vegetarian, I take it. Is that it?
No, not at all. You got that right, Marty.
All right. Well, everyone's been waiting for you to come on this morning to talk about what happened last night, and it actually ended up costing the Giants a game in a sense, although you got to score some runs and make things happen. It's tough to blame one play. But there was a play at second base last night. I described it in the open, this obstruction play. And, it just seems like baseball is creating more trouble for themselves, and they really bit the Giants last night.
I agree, Marty. They're changing rules constantly. Every year there's new rules to play by, and when you've been in the game for, 30 years at the major league level like myself, you used to have an advantage because you knew the rules, you knew how the way the game was played, and they're changed so much. There's really no advantage anymore because you got to learn all these new rules. The players have to adjust to the new rules, and some of these rules they don't even have them in AAA, where these players go back and forth from AAA to here. And, I'm a proponent of having the same rules in AAA as you do in the major leagues because the players move so much. But you explained it perfectly, the play that transpired last night. I think the umpire, I really don't blame the umpire. If your foot's in the baseline at all, as the guys, are getting close to the base. Now, that's where it's a little bit vague, and it's a lot to ask an umpire to see where his foot position is, watching the ball, watch the tag, but his foot was in the baseline. And, he pulled it out in plenty of time. And the thing that's bothersome to all of us is it didn't hinder the play at all. The runner didn't have to change the slide. it didn't hinder what he did. He went straight into the base. He had the lane to go straight into the base. He was clearly out, and the umpire calls obstruction. It's a terrible rule. You said it in the open. They adjusted the catcher's rule. A catcher could set up near home plate, and if the throw takes him into the baseline, he can go into the baseline to catch the ball. The infielder cannot. That is just ludicrous. And you mentioned the pizza boxes. If you're in front of that base and you're trying to tag a runner, you have to reach back, and everybody that's played this game knows a quicker tag is to let the ball travel and go straight up and down, and it's making it more difficult to do that, and it's very difficult when a ball's coming at you. This game is quick, and it's up the line that you got to worry about stepping in the baseline. Horrible rule. I hope it gets adjusted, and I hope they slow down on changing the game.
Well, it brings us back to replay as well. It's not reviewable. How can this not be reviewable? I mean, it's like the play at the plate. That's reviewable. Why can't you make this reviewable?
You're exactly right. It's almost as if they know, well, we don't know how this rule is going to fly, so let's not make it reviewable and have a lot more controversy. It should be reviewable. The umpires did get together, but they're not going to change their call. The guy out at second base had the best look at it. They did get together. They stayed with the obstruction, and as you said, essentially that was the winning run. Although, we did leave a man on third with less than 2 outs early in the game, and that run that scored in that inning, we had the infield in, and it was like a swinging bunt where Chapman had no play but to get the out at first. The pitcher did his job getting a weak ground ball, but swinging bunt, the guy scored easily.
Well, let's talk Chapman just a little bit. I like talking about him. I hope the Giants sign him. I really do. Dave Fleming said he was the best third baseman he's ever seen. The guy is really incredible on his consistency in the field. That's what gets it. He's plays so deep, but even if you bunt on him or you dribble one down the line, he still makes the play.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, the top three that I've seen play are obviously Chapman, Arenado, and Manny Machado, and that's a good argument about how would you rank those guys. But after watching Chapman day in, day out, I would give the nod to him. He plays deeper than those guys. Manny has the arm Chapman has, but he makes everything look so easy, Manny, that it's hard to tell if it's a difficult play or not. But watching Chapman, he's the best in my opinion. And the thing that I really appreciate is he's a leader. He's a leader on this team, in the clubhouse, and you win with people. You win with people in the uniform. I may say, everybody's a Giant. You're a Giant. You wear the uniform. But it's the person in the uniform that makes the difference.
Yeah, you're right. You always said, show me the man first and the player second. And I think with Chapman, he really lives up to that. What do you think of Mason Black yesterday? We saw him in spring training, and you've seen him at Sacramento and up here. What did you think of him yesterday?
Very, very good. He's really had his fastball command, and the way he pitches, for me, he needs to have that fastball command, and you saw what he's capable of doing. He located the ball extremely well. He really didn't have any hiccups in the game. He threw confidently, he attacked the hitters with good location, and he mixed in that little cutter slider thing that he has. That was, probably the best outing we've seen him throw here in the major leagues, and he's had games like that down in AAA, but that's the first one really here at the major league level. And, again, he's moved through the system very quickly as well, so it's very encouraging to see him continue to get better.
I was thinking about it. You look at Birdsong and Harrison and Jackson Churio, Jackson Merrill. There's so many players all over baseball. Baseball rushes people to the big leagues now. I mean, you look at a pitcher in the minor leagues, he may have pitched 200 innings, if that, in the minor leagues, and jumps a couple of classifications. But we see it in the quality of the game, but I think they're bringing people up too soon. I'd rather see, look, Birdsong's fabulous, but he's still a kid who hasn't pitched a lot of innings yet, and, he can lose the command here and there because he's still a kid.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's definitely changed. Years ago, 1,500 at bats, 2,000 at bats, a certain amount of innings you wanted out of guys. When they got to the major leagues, you wanted them to be a polished player that knew how to play, all facets of the game for the most part. And there was anomalies like that. Will Clark, two guys that we have here in the organization. Will Clark got to the big leagues awfully quick. Matt Williams got to the big leagues awfully quick. But those are special circumstances. And I think, too, what makes it a little harder in today's game, most organizations love versatility for the lineup, so they like to move players to different positions on the field. I was a utility player. I played all the infield spots, although I came up as a shortstop. And again, I think it takes a special athlete to do that. I even played outfield 1 year, and I wasn't very good out there. It's not easy to move around the field, so that affects your development. We had a play 2 days ago where Schmidt, he's played some second base now, but has he played it, 100 games or 150? No, he hasn't. He hasn't played second base. It was a double play ball where, Chapman double clutched, and then Schmidt 2 nights ago, he had no play, but he still tried to make the throw because his game clock isn't where you'd like it to be as a second baseman, and he threw the ball and he rushed it, made a bad throw, and the runner advanced. So those things show up in the play at the major league level because so many players get to the major leagues awfully quick.
Well, look at Fitzgerald, who's doing a great job at shortstop. He really is. Kind of let a ball play him yesterday and didn't get an out. And then we had the double steal in Milwaukee where Contreras was on third, and, Fitzgerald maybe should have run at him as opposed to throwing behind him, and Contreras scored. So look at those two plays.
Yeah, the first and third play, it doesn't come up a lot. That's a play that you drill in spring training over and over and over again. And here we are at the end of August, September now, and you finally get a play at the major league level where it happens. Now, I will say if Chapman fielded the ball clean and threw the ball home, there was a good chance that the runner would have been out. But whenever the runner's in no man's land, halfway between third and home, you should run at him a little bit, get him to commit before you make that long throw, because when you make that long throw and he's in between, he's going to break one way or the other. So, yeah, he could have taken a few steps at him, got the runner to commit one way or the other. For me, I don't care if he doesn't have to throw the ball home. I mean, if he's closer to third, you throw the ball to third. If he's closer to home, you throw the ball to home. A lot of people say, well, throw it home, run him back to the other base. So you throw it to home. Most catchers can't run anybody down, right? So now you don't have a good rundown. So whatever base he's closest to, you give the ball up in that manner.
All right. Corbin Carroll hit an inside-the-park home run. We're going to see him Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The kid has got 19 home runs now. He's had quite a second half. But he ran around the bases like the 7th fastest ever in the inside-the-park home run. I think Buxton has the record, and Witt is in there as well. But it made me think of Bo Jackson. Can you imagine Bo Jackson with an inside-the-park home run? Did you ever see Bo Jackson play?
Oh, absolutely. I was in spring training with the Royals in 1987. I was fighting for the utility shortstop position, play short, and utility role with Bill Pacoda. And Bo Jackson was on that team, so I spent a whole major league camp with Bo. Buddy Black, who everybody knows, a former Giant, was on that team. I had George Brett, Mark Gubazov. They had all the greats, but Bo was probably the greatest athlete, that I ever was in a locker room with as far as the things that he can do. The throw, the power, climb a wall to make a catch, Marty. We all seen him run up the walls to make catches, but very unique and dynamic player, no doubt, and I really enjoyed my time getting to rub elbows with him.
Well, the speed, as a football player, he turned the corner, he was gone. And but wasn't he like a great athlete as well? He could do other stuff.
Oh, he could do everything. Shoot, he beat me in pool. They had a pool table down there in Fort Myers, and He could shoot pool. He could do everything. He's a great athlete, and really a quality guy too. I know he's involved with a lot of different charities and things now in his life. He's given back. So I'm very impressed with Bo Jackson. He's a great human being.
I wonder if he ever had an inside the park home run. Someone can look that up and let me know. I'd like to see him run around the bases after watching that clip with him as the Raiders when he turns the corner and he runs up the tunnel. The only thing that was going to stop him was a popcorn machine, on the second deck or something. So
that's right.
Well, it's September baseball. Whoa, look, the Giants have their backs against the wall. There's no tomorrow in this thing. You got to win today, and you got to have that sense in the clubhouse, right?
Yeah, and they do. Look, I thought the energy level was playoff energy in the dugout now. I've been in the dugout the last 10 to 12 games, and the energy level in there is fantastic. The guys are on the rail. They're pulling for each other, and they're trying to get this thing done. And, the issue is this game, you can't just will it into performance. And, you have to situational hit. And I think that's been one of our biggest bugaboos is getting the guy over and getting them in from third base. I know everybody talks about, hitting with runners in scoring position. Well, that's part of it, but that's tough for every team. I mean, there's not many teams that say, there's men in scoring position. Let me get a hit now. Of course, good hitters with good approaches that understand my job is to get him in any way I can, whether it's a fly ball or a ground ball if the infield's back. That's the way the game was played years ago. And, quite frankly, it hasn't been really emphasized here, until this year. We worked on it a little bit, but it was more of, the launch angle, take your A swing, drive the ball, no matter where the runners are at. And we just don't hit a lot of homers. We don't have that personnel. The park makes it a little tougher. So, I think the brand of baseball that used to be played in this park is still a winning brand of baseball going forward here at Oracle Park.
Well, Giants have the right guy on the hill today in Logan Webb. So we'll see if they can get it done today. And so we'll talk to you next week. Well, I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Marty, great being with you. Have a good week.
All right. That is our professor, Ron Wotus. Always a pleasure to have him on. But I talk about River Islands, Woe and I, all the time. And there's so many neighborhoods now that are coming up in River Islands. And that's the amazing part of it. Every time we do the show, every time I do a new spot, there are more neighborhoods being built at River Island. So what a place to look for a home. What a place. It really is unique. It really is. RiverIslands.com. All right. Truthfully, Glenn Kuiper really is next, coming up here on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Fans, Bridge Bank delivers their clients full relationship banking, including treasury management solutions and global market services. Bridge Bank offers financing solutions to businesses for their working capital, equipment, and real estate needs. This is very important in today's world. Fred Voss is the Senior Managing Director of Bridge Bank's commercial lending efforts in Northern California. He has commercial banking teams in San Jose with Jesse Garcia, San Francisco, Oakland, Cheadle, Cordova, and in Pleasanton. Bridge Bank, it's like banking at home. I can't say enough about it.
Orange and Black family, the godfather of Giants baseball now continues. This is Talkin' Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
Fans, great to have you back with us as we get ready for Giants baseball Game 3 between the Giants and the Marlins. It is September 1st, Labor Day weekend, even though no game on Labor Day tomorrow, but that is baseball. Glenn Kuiper joins us. Glenn, good morning. How are you?
How you doing, Marty? Can you believe we're into September already? That's crazy.
No, it's amazing how fast the season really goes. But here we are, and there's the 24, 25 games to go, and still nothing is really settled, but things are settling in, I will tell you that. Let's talk a little bit about last night and the game between the Giants and the Marlins. Number one, how'd you like Jeff Conine's kid, Channing Conine, hitting the ball off the foul pole for a home run last night?
Well, isn't it amazing, though, Marty, when you start seeing, these kids of players that you really feel like, wow, Jeff Conine, it wasn't that long ago that he was playing, was it, Mr. Marlin? No. And then, now you start seeing the kids come, and it's happening more and more. I mean, every day you see, kids that are, their dads were, wow, he just played, but looks like a pretty good player. And, yeah, what a great moment, how you hit a home run, you hit your first big league home run in kind of a cool way, right, in a ballpark where, you have a chance to hit one in the water and that kind of thing. So I think I enjoy seeing these kids come up, because you know what they've been through, right? They probably grew up in a big league clubhouse, which, there's something to that. I think those kids get an understanding of what professional baseball is all about at a very, very young age. And I do think that's an advantage for these kids. So, you hope he has a great career. I know his dad was a really good player. His dad hurt the Giants a couple times, if I remember correctly. So,
oh yeah.
Unfortunately, you don't forget that stuff. But, good for him.
All right, Marlins win it last night 4-3 over the Giants. These are tough losses for the Giants. Atlanta lost as well, so the Giants remain at 6-7 games back in the loss column. And, of course, Atlanta has the tiebreaker over the Giants. Glenn Kuiper with us. Glenn, there was a crazy part of the game last night, and Woe and I talked about it, and I know it's going to be a topic of conversation in baseball, I'm sure, over the winter, and that is this obstruction rule at the bases, and certainly at second base last night. For those who didn't see it, and we've talked about it already on the show this morning, Tyler Fitzgerald gets called for obstruction on a steal attempt where they got the runner out, and the guy had a full lane to the bag. So you're a former second baseman. What did you think?
I just think it's an awful rule, right? I mean, it's just I don't know that the rule makes a lot of sense to me. I know what they're trying to do, right? They don't want the infielder blocking the bag, and there used to be some infielders who would drop their knee in front of the bag where you couldn't get to it, but that didn't happen a lot. So the rule to me is kind of a silly rule. It's one of those that you want to say, well, did you really need to add this rule? Is it really that you already made the bags bigger, right? So now you're going to do this. And if a guy is clearly not doing it on purpose, and very few guys are doing that on purpose, then I don't understand how you can put this rule in, and then now we're seeing it where umpires are making this call, and a lot of times it's a bad call. So not only is it a bad rule, but last night it was a bad call. And we've seen it a couple times. Okay, was Fitzgerald really blocking the bag? No, the guy was able to slide right. It just didn't make any sense last night. And I thought it was a clear reason why it's a bad rule, and you got to be really careful if you're going to call it. I mean, it has to be a clear, a guy just literally, you see guys, they drop their knee in front of the bag, guy can't slide into it. Okay, fine, I get that. But you don't see that happen at all. But now, too, Marty, what you're doing is you're taking away a good defensive play. Mm-hmm. When a catcher throws out a base runner, it doesn't happen a lot. That's a big play, right? It's a momentum play. it's a keeping a runner out of scoring position play. And so Bailey gets that taken away from him completely. So a good defensive play is taken away because of what is, A, a bad rule, and B, a bad call on that rule. And I thought it was disappointing. And you know what? It ends up, giving them a run, and you lose the game by 1 run. So stuff like that, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. I think it's overthinking by Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it is. And I said it with Woe. You have to have common sense. And they're using common sense now. The catcher at the plate, if he sets up in front of the plate, it's okay if it's not impeding the runner. You use common sense in that rule now, and you have to use common sense in this one. And the other thing, as you point out, with Bailey made a great throw. Bailey throws that sidearm throw to second, and that ball tails a lot of times into the runner, which puts the fielder in that position. Is he blocking the bag or not? And you can kind of go where the ball goes.
That's right.
Bailey's got to throw it a little bit more overhand to get it right on the bag and not create that situation.
Yeah, and he doesn't do that. That's just, he kind of does the Thurman Munson throw, right? Which we grew up watching. But that's the thing too, Marty, is Fitzgerald, sometimes a middle infielder, they have to move their feet to catch the ball. So now you're not allowing the guy to move his feet to catch the ball because he's afraid that he's going to maybe just, briefly put his foot in front of the bag. There's still room for the guy to slide in. There's still room. The bags are bigger. There's still room for him to find a spot to slide into. Bad rule. And listen, it cost the Giants, who knows, maybe the game last night because they did get a run out of it.
Yeah. All right. That was last night. But the Giants, look, we're heading into September. We're there. The Giants are probably going to make a couple of moves today to bring some players up, maybe a little more hitting if they can find it somewhere. But, Glenn, what does this year tell you? Where are the Giants? What do they have to do for next year? Trade people, free agents? What's your opinion? Look, you know the game. You've watched it. We've been on every weekend the whole year, right from spring training. So you got a good look at this ball club.
Well, it's been a strange year, Marty, because they've been hovering around 500 the whole year, and with 25 games left. Listen, you have to kind of come to the realization that is where they're at. They are a 500 team. They're probably going to finish somewhere around 500 when this season's over. So that's going to be disappointing no matter what. But the young players have made it what I think is a bright spot with Fitzgerald, who looks like maybe he could be an everyday player. Ramos certainly looks like an everyday player. So I think, Marty, to answer your question is you got to look around the infield. You need to sign Chapman. I think that's very important. The Giants know it's important. It's going to cost you a lot of money, but he wants to stay. And he's the kind of guy you need to have. Okay, we've seen it this year. He's a glue guy, right? I think the middle infield is really, really important, Marty. I think if Fitzgerald's a keeper, and I think that he is, you need to decide, are you going to play him at short, or are you going to go get a shortstop? Like the kid in San Diego, the Giants like a lot, Kim, Adames, the shortstop in Milwaukee. Are you going to get a shortstop and move Fitzgerald to second base? Or vice versa? Are you going to keep Fitzgerald as short and see if there's a second baseman you can sign up there? I think that's what you have to do in the middle infield. I like the idea of Fitzgerald at second and getting, one of these other guys at short. And, and I like Lamont Wade Jr. a lot, but I think you need to find somebody to play first base. I really feel that way. I think you need, Lamont has 23 RBIs. I know he's been dinged up, got off to a great start, but I think you need a big, big bat at first base. I think the outfield situation, we've seen some good young, Ramos is fun to watch. Maybe McRae can help. Matos is still there. You got Lee, who's going to be out there every day next year. But I think you need another bat in the outfield as well. maybe somebody who can DH and play, right field or left field. That's the way I look at it, and it's easy to say because a lot of this is about spending money, Marty, but I think you got to figure out in the middle infield, you need a first baseman who hits the ball to the ballpark, and you need another outfielder who can produce runs. I think if you do that, then, offensively and defensively, I think you could probably have a pretty good group out there. So because, listen, Marty, I think we've seen enough from the offense where it's been a struggle this year. And right now with the guys that are there, it's probably just not quite enough to be an 87, 88, 90 win team.
Glenn, what happens? Look, Chris Sale, Wheeler, those are going to be the Cy Young guys. But, look, Snell may be more effective than both of them. But he's had such a star-crossed season with things going on. But what do you do with Snell? Do you get involved with him? Do you compete with him?
I think the Giants will. But it's going to, listen, it's going to cost you, $25-30 million a year for maybe 3 or 4 years. Again, that's just me guessing. I don't know the actual numbers, but I think the thing there, Marty, is we've seen him, and when he's going well, he is as good as anybody in baseball. So you have that guy in your backyard. I know he likes it there. I know he likes everything about the Giants. Is he concerned whether they have enough to win in the next 3-4 years? Maybe, but every player is going to be concerned about that. But if you have him in your backyard and you know that he likes it there, I think you have to make an effort to use that to your advantage and see if you can keep him. It's going to cost you a ton of money. But there is some money coming off the books, getting rid of the Soler contract. Maybe all that helps you, but listen, if you want to, go to the next level, I think keeping Chapman and Snell, I think it's important. And if you do that, Marty, too, if you can say, well, we got Snell, you're going to be with us for the next 3 or 4 years. You have some very attractive pitchers in the minor leagues that are very high prospects. Maybe that's when you can say, well, maybe we can afford to package a couple of those guys. Just go out and see if you can get who knows, maybe a first baseman. Maybe you look at the Vaughn kid in Chicago, or maybe you go crazy and take a run at Vlad. I don't know. These are all attractive things, but it does allow you to say, hey, we have some young pitchers in the minor leagues who are very talented, who we can now make available. So It's going to be an interesting offseason, Marty, but there are some things that they clearly need to do.
No, I'm with you. Good analysis. I like the Snell idea. You brought me around a little bit on Snell. I said, well, they have enough pitching without him, but boy, you have him in shape for a whole year with Robbie Ray and with Logan Webb and Birdsong and Harrison. It's pretty good.
That is pretty good. I mean, now you got something to work with, and I think Snell's he now realizes how important spring training is, and whoever he signs with, he's going to be ready to go in spring training. And I think that's important too, because he found out what happens if you don't have a full spring training, and he does not want that to happen again. No,
not happy. Boy, yeah, good thought. Very good thought. Glenn Kuiper with us, of course, every Sunday morning. Glenn, we passed a milestone in your family, and that this week was the anniversary of Dwayne's only home run in the major leagues, and you and I have never talked about it on the air, so I thought I'd throw that one at you this morning.
Yeah, August 29th, 1977. That's a big day in the Kuiper family, Marty. I just did the math for you, and I believe it's 47 is the anniversary, 47 years. Which is the funny story about that, Marty, is it was a Monday night, right? So Monday night, August 29th, the Cleveland Indians and the Chicago White Sox. It's probably not a heated pennant race for those two teams, right? But the funny thing about it is, back then, Marty, is you had Monday Night Baseball, right? Every Monday night there was a game on. But there was always also a backup game on Monday Night Baseball in case the number one game, which was usually the Yankees, right? But if that game was in a rain delay or got rained out, they always had a backup game. Well, if you can believe that, the backup game that night was the Indians and the White Sox, and it was raining in the main game. I don't remember who the main game was. So we actually, in Wisconsin, and listen, there's no cable back then. We actually watched the game. It was the backup game of Monday Night Baseball. So we had it on TV, which we always listened to the game on the radio. So we actually saw it, if you can believe that. It was pretty cool. I remember it very clearly sitting on the couch with my dad because we were thinking, wow, we get to watch the game. This is great. And here he hits a home run. But at that point, Marty, he was kind of in the middle of his career, Dwayne. So we didn't envision that would be his only home run. We always thought that, well, he's going to hit more. It's not going to be a lot more, but he will hit some more, and he never did. But Dwayne always said he's proud of his one home run. He said nobody would care if I hit 3 or 4, but he said I wish I would have hit one with the Giants because then I would have had one home run in the American League and one home run in the National League. And he said, then there's a good story there. But he's always had a great attitude about the one home run. And if the wrong person asks him about it, Marty, somebody who maybe never played in the big leagues, he'll say, I got one more than you do. So he's ready for the response if anybody is going to tease him about it. So we've had a lot of fun with it, and we're very proud of it. So
I love it. What happened to the ball? Did he come home?
Oh yeah, he did get the ball. It's funny if you watch the video. The right fielder was a guy by the name of Wayne Nordhagen.
Okay.
And he kind of caught it, and he looked around, and I believe he kind of flipped it back toward the infield. He did get the ball. I don't know exactly how it got to Dwayne, but he did get it, and he obviously has the bat. And he has the seat that it hit, that's the good one.
Okay.
And he's going to tell you that it was about 30 rows back. It was actually, I believe, in the second row at Municipal Stadium.
I love it.
It's a fun story that has lasted a long time. So
I love it. All right. Hey, good to have you on Sunday morning as always. Labor Day, our last month. So enjoy the day, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
All right. Can't wait. Looking forward to it, Marty. See you, bud.
All right, that is Glenn Kuiper. More coming up. Bruce Jenkins next, right here on the Sports Leader. It's been a pleasure working with Rick Robin this year. Rick Robin, ROBBEN, NapaConstruction.com. Rick, the last time you were on with us, you told us about kitchen and bath remodeling, but there's a lot more going on up in your area.
Yes, there is. ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units, which are known as the granny units. We can do your existing garage, attached garage, even building a new unit in the back. And so what we do is come out, bring our architect out there. Such a great thing. No sewer hookup fees, no water hookup fees. So that's what we do.
Rick, how does one start the process with you? How does one get in touch with you?
Oh, you call Tammy, 707-332-7575, 7 days a week.
Rick Robin, ConstructionNapa.com. Rick, the thing I like about this, no problem for me. You come out with the plans, the permits, everything is in-house, no fees, and you get a new unit that you can rent out and get money back on your investment right away. I like it, Rick.
Thanks, Marty. Love talking to you.
Rick Robin, ConstructionNapa.com. Gene Bagato checked in from the Tides up in Bodega Bay, and he said that with fall just around the corner, they're expecting some of the best weather of the year. Down at the Tides Wharf, there's something for everyone, from a great waterside restaurant serving the freshest seafood available to a fish market offering a wide selection of delicacies to take home, as well as a gift shop stocked with a fantastic variety of gifts, souvenirs, and clothing items. How about that? And just across Highway 1, there's the Inn at the Tides with its incredible bay views and the recently reopened Bayview Dining Room and its incredible menu that provide guests with a unique dining experience. Wow. So if you're looking to get away this fall for just a day or perhaps a little longer, remember the Tides Wharf and the Inn at the Tides in scenic Bodega Bay.
Look through the window of the original Joe's on North Beach and you'll see two guys at the counter talking ball. Time for you to listen in to their conversation. Marty Laurie and the SF Chronicles' Bruce Jenkins are looking through the window of baseball. Sponsored by Original Joe's of North Beach and Westlake on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
All right, Bruce Jenkins, good morning. How are you today?
Good. Jeez, after that ad, I think I'm going to go up to Bodega Bay and watch the Giants from there.
I'll tell you, it's a lot of fun. It really is. By the way, you were at Original Joe's on Tuesday night or Thursday night. How was it?
Oh, another big winner. I always think I'm going to get something else, but I always come back to the hamburger. That the hamburger on French is the best hamburger in the world for my money. So we're always there. I'm always doing the simple stuff. Little cocktail, all good.
Yeah, good. Okay, I'm glad that you could be there. Hey, the Giants, Bruce, what can I say? 4-3 last night. Atlanta ends up losing last night. Zach Wheeler pitches another great game. You saw young Chris Sale, Zach Wheeler, that's kind of where it's going to be. But it was a tough loss for the Giants last night. These are games you got to win.
Yeah, it really was. Mason Black pitched really well. It was very encouraging, but once again, they're just not hitting, especially when they really need to. And the fact is, they're seventh in the wild card standings, Marty. Seventh. The Cardinals are a half game ahead of them. The Cubs are 2.5 ahead of them. The Mets are ahead of them by 4.5. So forget the Braves. I mean, it's really a long road coming up. And now they host Arizona, and that'll be tough. Those games are going to be good. I don't think the Giants are going to fold by any means, but it's going to be tough to really turn these standings around. There's so many ways it has to happen.
No, and Arizona comes in. Look, they've got another game today against the Dodgers, and they play another one tomorrow on Labor Day. Then they come in, and the Giants do have their pitching kind of set up. But let's talk a little bit about what's going on with Arizona and the Dodgers. They had 50,000 last night at Chase Field, 46,000 Friday night. And as Red Barber would say, all hell broke loose in the first inning last night at Chase Field.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman start the game with homers? I mean, good grief. But typical Dodgers, you can't trust any of their starters. I mean, Gavin Stone gives up a three-run leadoff homer to Carroll, who was inside the park, right? Yeah.
Yes,
and by the way, if you saw that, I hope every kid's watching that. As soon as Carroll hit the ball, he's just busting it out of the box. He's not looking to see anything. He's already at top speed, and sure enough, he gets an inside-the-park homer out of it. But anyway, they give a big lead to Gavin Stone. He can't hold it. All of their starters are in trouble, it seems like. And they're so desperate. The kid Justin Robleski comes off the IL to face Arizona today. So, I mean, it was a mess, but, it comes down to Tommy Edman, great kid from Stanford. I always liked him. It was a nice pickup from the Cardinals by the Dodgers, and he's just now sort of coming to the fore, and he hits the two-run single that decides the game.
Yeah, Arizona's got trouble in the bullpen now. This Paul Sewald, who took them to the World Series last year. As relievers go, we've seen it a million times. 1 year good, 1 year bad. That's the way it works. He's in trouble there. They've got some trouble in the bullpen, but it's Corbin Carroll, Bruce. He's got 19 home runs now, and he is off to a terrible start. But when you watch the play, and he hits it off the center field batter's eye there at Chase Field, and Kiermaier goes back. He thinks maybe he can catch it, and then, of course, the ball's off the wall and bounces away from him. Corbin Carroll had the 7th fastest time going around the bases in the history of the game. That's how fast. That's how fast he went around the bases, and it made me think about who would be the fastest runner you've ever seen in baseball.
Well, I always think about Willie Davis, Willie Wilson, Ron LaFleur, Bo Jackson. Wilson. Yeah, those guys come very quickly to mind. Deion Sanders, when he played, was unbelievable. Yeah. Those guys are all in the ballpark. And now that they're incorporating the Negro Leagues, I wonder if Cool Papa Bell might have got around faster. But I don't think you can flat out say. I mean, Mickey Mantle, before his knees went bad, would be in that argument. But the thing about Corbin Carroll is, first of all, the hustle right off the bat. But he rounds the bases in a square. He doesn't round any bases. He goes station to station in a perfect square. He cuts every base perfectly, and that saves you, inches, maybe even a few feet somewhere. And they've had that amazing stat. Virtually every time he scores a run, they win the game. and they're also a very good comeback team, as we saw last night after getting rocked for 3 homers in a row. I mean, they got back in the game, as they tend to do.
Yeah, this is going to be a good race to the finish. Now, the Diamondbacks and the Padres are both 6 back, and the Dodgers, of course, you got the Diamondbacks today. You got Robleski for the Dodgers today, Brandon Pfaadt, and then we'll see where it ends up. But this thing is not over, and that brings me to my next question to you. There's always a surprise in September. There's always something that happens. It just doesn't go the way you think it's going to go, even though on Labor Day everyone says, let's see who's in first place, and they'll stay there. Let's take a look at least the wild card, Arizona, San Diego, Atlanta right now, but you mentioned the other 4 teams. Anyone in those other 4 teams you think have a shot to just jump into this thing?
Well, they're in it. They're not. They don't. They're all in it. I mean, they're just a couple of games behind Atlanta, but I really like the Mets. Just when you wondered about their pitching, like Sean Manaea, all of a sudden you can't touch him. This kid David Peterson's pitching great. They got another great start the other night. Lindor is completely playing like an MVP. Alonso, the 5th time he's hit 30 homers, which is that's never happened with the Mets. I've always loved Jose Iglesias. Unbelievable fielder, true magic fielder. He's played a lot for them. He can hit a little bit, and he's been doing some stuff. Diaz is back saving games. J.D. Martinez. I mean, the Mets, and but once they get rolling and they get the crowd going, and that's a scary team to me.
Yeah, Vientos is pretty good too. The kid at third.
Yeah, a lot of power, big power there.
Yeah, and the catcher's done well too. That brings me to the question. I get this a lot. Would you go after Alonso if you're the Giants? Is he someone you would put money into? I mean, real money into?
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't come here, but he's so legit. And they always talk about trading him, but they never do, and they never really regret it. And once again, this is the 5th time he's hit over 30 homers. He's a fully legit sort of Harmon Killebrew-like power hitter. He doesn't give you a whole lot else, but he could play first, for the Giants. If he showed any interest in wanting to come here, I'd go hard for him. He's not a young guy, but he's still pretty much in his prime, and as we know, he's full on legit power, whatever park he plays.
Yeah, my feeling is this, and Glenn Kuiper mentioned it. I mean, I think you have to sign Chapman, and look, it's money. You have to. He's your guy, and Woe said it. The kid, the man first, and then the player, and he lives up to that. You got to do it. It's got to be done. I would go after Snell. And I realize, with Boris, you want to work the market, and he could be sitting there in January again. It could happen again. But I would go hard after Snell and just try to kill the pitching. Just try to put it away. And then I really would try to make a trade for Vladdy and see if that can happen. And that would be the bold moves I'd like to see. And if Vladdy wasn't going to happen, I'd go hard after Alonso, especially if Snell went somewhere else.
Oh, I would totally go hard for Snell. I mean, this guy's the best pitcher in baseball when he's on. Certainly one of the top 5. No, there's no question. You can't touch him. He's out there throwing the fastballs and curves, and he's all but laughing at hitters when up against him. And I think he's got a soft spot for San Francisco. He talks that way. I don't think he's ruled it out by any means. If he wants to get back in the championship game, that's not going to happen for the Giants next year. Who knows in the future? But I would really, really want to lock him up. Chapman, that goes without saying. And I think there's a fair chance that they do sign him because he likes the Bay Area, and he's had a great, one of his best years really in recent years here. So yeah, I mean, I'm down with all of that. Vladdy would be an unbelievable pickup. I mean, geez, he's one of the great hitters in the game, a tremendous bad ball hitter, just like his dad, and he's kind of run out of time in Toronto. They just haven't done anything, with him. Not to mention some of the other really good players, Springer and Bichette. So it's just not happening up there for some reason. He needs to get out of Toronto, and he's not intimidated by any ballpark, that's for sure. Yeah. I'm not sure how he feels about San Francisco, but when he hits them, they're long gone. So, and with all of that, Marty, definitely.
Yeah, I would do it, and I would make the offer to Snell right away, and a big offer. And look, as I say with Boris, you never know what he's going to do, but I wouldn't mince around, and I wouldn't say, well, we could do this or that. I would go hard and serious dollars at the guy right away and see if you can get it done. And if Vladdy was available, Harrison, Birdsong, Walker, Duvall, I don't care who you want. Fitzgerald, it's worth it to get in a player like that. And that's the kind of deal that general managers make. They're bold. They take chance. If it's Frank Lane, if it's Speck Richardson, Tom Haller, Brian Sabian, I don't care who it is, you have to have that one trade that you're known for. And I think that's what Farhan has got to do this winter if he's still here.
Yeah, and what he's never done that. They've never been able to pull off that huge acquisition. They flirted with Harper and Stanton and Judge and who knows who else, and it never happens. But you can't stop trying, because if you can land somebody like that, they have the money, and it's just a matter of how badly they want to spend it. We never really know how they stand there or how they stand with Farhan, but things have leveled off to a point where, I mean, And Killian had a tweet the other day. Her one word about the Giants was same as before I left for the Olympics, and that's yawn. They're boring. They're really boring.
Well, and you're in a division now. Look, the Dodgers are, we see what they're doing, and you're looking at Arizona, 50,000 last night because they have a young, exciting team. San Diego's drawn 42,000 every single game. Manny has got 2 more home runs. He's going to get past Nate Colbert, thank God, finally.
Yeah, finally.
Finally, someone will lead the Padres in lifetime home runs other than Nate Colbert.
Yeah, I'm with you there, boy, no kidding.
And the Padres, they make trades all the time, but the audience likes it. And the Giants, seriously, and I know we're only in September and we got a long way to go, but I think you have to have a plan. And for me, that would be the plan. You've got to have a noteworthy move. Something's got to happen. Big time.
Yeah, and the Giants crowds lately have not been good. I mean, it's just Miami, but, this is September, for heaven's sake, late August, and a lot of empty seats in the lower deck. It's not a terrible crowd. It's around 30, I guess, but, that's not what they want. They want to pack the place, which they always do when they're going good, and everything's, on the up and up. So, yeah, there's a lot of signs that say they need to be dramatic and get in this game because there's 3 teams ahead of them in their own division that are loaded up for years, with these great players. So it's time to do something.
Yeah, you have to do it, and I think you have to be known for it. There's a time every general manager is known. If it's Dombrowski, he made the trade, with Cabrera and all that when he was with Detroit. Everybody has that moment. Brian Sabian had the moment, the Matt Williams trade. That's the way baseball works. You got to be known for something.
Mm-hmm. Or you could be Frank Lane and trade everybody. They called him Trader Lane, right?
Yeah, you could try to trade Stan Musial. Look, Frank Lane, look it up. As Raf likes to say, kids, go to Google and look it up. But he was called Frank Trader Lane because he traded managers. Come on, he traded Jimmy Dykes for Joe Gordon, his manager. He traded him in the middle of the season.
He almost traded himself one night over too many cocktails.
Probably. And he worked with Charlie Finley. You can imagine what that was like. So, but that's what I'd like to see with Farhan and the Giants. I really would, and I don't think I'm out there in saying it. So we'll see what happens. A couple of things. One was interesting to me. Did you see the story about the Mexican League and how many players are now going to the Mexican League and what a big deal it is? Because the minor leagues have contracted so much, and there are so many younger players being pushed through the system to AA, AAA so fast. There's no room for the guys who played for a while, and they're all going to Mexico.
Some of the older guys, you mean, or just?
Yeah, it's like the old International League or the PCL. Some of the older guys are now in Mexico.
I did not see that, but I like it. I mean, I always wanted to go down there and catch a few games. Base yourself in Mexico City and spread around and see some of the parks and the players. Some really good players have come out of there, and the Mexican League has a long tradition. It goes way back, and to me, I don't think you're going to see a lot of it on television, but whatever guys need to do to stay in the game and stay relevant, give themselves a chance to get called up. You put up some numbers as opposed to a kid coming in, all of a sudden he's playing ahead of you, and what good are you if you're a bench player in AA,
Well, that's what's happening now because AA and AAA is filled up with, kids who, do something for 2 or 3 weeks, and next thing you know, boom, they're in AAA, and the next thing you know, they want to be in the big leagues. So for the guy who's been around for a while, there's no place for him to play. But now the Mexican League has some money, and there's a little history to it. If you go back to the 40s, they tried to create a Mexican League and raided some of the major league players who went down there. Sal Magli, one of the great Giants, did that. And then they went bankrupt, and, of course, the players came back. But now they're bankrolling this league again, and actually it has some merit to it.
Yeah, just on another topic, I'm wondering, one guy who's not going to be going down there, Bryce Eldridge. What do you think about him and how soon the Giants should take a serious look at him?
Well, this is part of baseball today. This is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
He's a high school kid, and he's hitting the heck out of the ball in high A right now.
Mm-hmm.
But he's learning how to play first base. Let's see. I mean, the way baseball works today, he'll maybe they'll send him to the fall league. Who knows? Maybe they'll do that. And once you send him to the fall league, you get a good look at him because then he's facing a little better pitching competition. But we got to see him above A ball. But certainly the way these guys hit, he's on the radar.
Yeah, you read about a kid who's hit 4 homers in 3 games, and you look at the video, and it's all very for real. He's got a beautiful swing, great power swing. The interviews with him, he sounds super confident. He goes, I'm really looking forward to playing for the Giants one day in the ballpark and everything else. And he just seems really solid. So you got 2 weeks of solid, and where do you go with it?
Yeah, no, but that's the story of this franchise because they're desperate for young talent like that. And that's why they, Luciano Matos said, get Meckler, get them up here. Mm-hmm. Michael Conforto, we love you. You're a great guy. And thank God you have a good family. But it's been a pleasure. And I said he'll be like Bobby Mercer. In 20 years, he'll say, did I ever play in San Francisco?
Yeah, exactly.
Get the kids up here now. I'm
so in favor of that. I mean, I want to see a lot of Luciano in September. I'd like to see a lot of Schmidt. I don't know if they can fit him in. They're certainly not going to sit Fitzgerald down, but I'd like to see Matos out there, getting a lot of time as well. I mean, we all love Yaz, and I don't know if they're going to say farewell to him, but, once it's evident that they're not going to get there, I think even he would understand you got to take a look at some of these kids.
Yeah, it's got to happen. And I'm glad we could have this conversation today. Who knows what this week will bring before we talk next Sunday. But the Giants, their backs are literally against the wall here with 25 to go. By the time you and I talk, it'll be like in the teens. So, they better be 3 back at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll see what happens. All right. A couple of things. One, a great historical note today, and it involves the Giants, and it's the anniversary of the debut of the first Japanese player in Major League Baseball. How about that? Masanori Murakami. How about that?
Yeah, 1964. I mean, you talk about a different times. Not that far removed from World War II, and relationships with Japan were not good. There was a lot of tension, a lot of disparaging remarks from American executives about the caliber of play in Japan. But they finally, this is some 20 years later, they set up an exchange program, and we got to get Murakami over from his club to see what he could do over here. And they sent him to Fresno. He did really well. And the next thing you know, this is it's late September. I'm sorry, late August, early September. Next thing you know, he's flying from Fresno to San Francisco. He hops a plane to New York, where he gets to the hotel the next night. He's going to pitch against the Mets. This kid from Japan, and nobody's ever seen a player from Japan. And he pitched a scoreless 8th inning, and pitched well the rest of the season. He had a 1.80 ERA in like 15 innings, and he came back in 65 and did really well. But all the while, there were these super tense negotiations between the Giants and his old club, and on how much, who's going to get paid and have to pay. It was very acrimonious. It never got good. And he finally, they just insisted, first of all, that he go back to Japan after the 65 season, and he never came back. It was just too tense. But he sure opened the door. I mean, he did, for little Asian kids, he did what Jackie Robinson did for the black population. It was the same kind of thing. All of a sudden, little, Asian kids are going, look at this guy. And as we've seen, good Lord, we get Ichiro and Ohtani,
It's great. And Horace Stoneham, another feather in his cap.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why Horace Stoneham deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He did a lot. He did a lot in Latin America, and as you point out, I hadn't thought about it in that context for Japanese baseball. Horace Stoneham, very good. Well, that's a good one. Noteworthy birthday today, Gary Maddox. As they said, the world is covered 2/3 by the ocean, 1/3 by Gary Maddox, the center fielder. It's one of the great quotes of all time.
That's a wonderful quote. I mean, you talk about how the Giants are trying to sort out their outfield and Conforto and Yaz and God, whatever. In his second season with the Giants in '73, he's playing center, and like you say, he's covering most of the earth. Except, and Gary Matthews is in left, hitting 300, and Bobby Bonds is in right, hitting 39 homers. That was an outfield. And Maddox hit 319 that year with all that defense. So. Good memories. We always go back to Mays and McCovey and Cepeda, but in the early '70s when they had Bobby Bonds and the two Garys, those are pretty special times.
Yep. And the Count is in there eventually too.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Yep.
That was fun. Oh, good to talk to you. All right, have a great week, and we'll talk next week. Thanks, Bruce.
Great, thank you, Marty.
All right, coming up next, Steve Gilbert. He covers the Diamondbacks for MLB.com right here on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Just a quick note about the rooftop restaurant at the Via Hotel, the Hotel Via across the street from the park. They do a wide variety of events on the rooftop, from weddings and birthdays to corporate retreats and special events, holiday events, and any other special occasion you can think of. With stunning 360 views of the skyline, Bay Bridge, East Bay, and of course Oracle Park, the rooftop at Via is truly one of the most unique event venues in San Francisco. Everyone likes a party, but everyone loves a party at Original Joe's. With 3 private dining rooms, it's the perfect spot to hold your next big event. From christenings to corporate gatherings, we'll make your next party San Francisco special. Original Joe's, see you at the counter.
Giants fans, there's no better way to set the game day table than talking baseball with Marty Laurie. Marty keeps rolling on KNBR, the sports leader.
Vince, great to have you back with us as we get ready for Giants baseball. Joining us is Steve Gilbert. He covers the Arizona Diamondbacks for MLB.com. And Steve, how are you this morning?
I'm a little tired, Marty, but otherwise I'm a little worn out from the last couple of days of baseball, but otherwise I'm doing okay.
Well, it's amazing, the excitement down here in Arizona with the Dodgers in town, and Saturday night, 50,000 at the ballpark. Friday night, 46,000, another game today and another game on Monday on 2 teams that have become really sort of rivals with each other, but last night maybe took the cake for a wild game. Tell us about last night.
I don't think we've I know that Dodger fans have never seen it because it was the first time in Dodger history, which is, we're talking a long time, that they had hit 3 homers to open up a game. And it looked like at that point it was going to be a blowout for the Dodgers. And then, Corbin Carroll comes up to lead off the bottom of the first and hits an inside the park homer. And suddenly the Dodgers 3-0 lead at the end of that bottom of the first ends up being a 4-3 deficit. So it was, again, a crazy start to yesterday's game and to Friday's game, where there's just a lot of offense early on, and it's like 2 heavyweight fighters just, standing in the middle of the ring throwing haymakers. Back in the day, the Dodgers and Diamondbacks used to throw literal haymakers about, a decade ago. But now it's just metaphorically with the offense. It's the way they've been the last couple nights.
What about the crowd? As I said, as I introduced you, I mean, 50,000 last night, 46,000 Friday night. Maybe you'll tell us what to expect today and for Monday, but how about that?
Yeah, they're expecting similar crowds, maybe not 50, but they're expecting similar crowds today and Monday to what they had on Friday. And it's you always get a lot of Dodger fans. There's a lot of Dodger fans that live here in the Phoenix area, and it's also obviously a short trip over for those that live in LA. So you always get that Dodger, a healthy amount of Dodger fans in attendance. But I think what you're seeing now is that there's some excitement on the Diamondback side. And so you're seeing more Diamondback fans, and it kind of becomes, if not 50-50, maybe 60-40 Diamondback fans. And it makes for an exciting atmosphere and a lot of back and forth and a lot of, cheering on both sides. So it really has, it's had it gets overused a lot, but it really did have a playoff feel these last couple of days.
Well, the Diamondbacks are now 6 back, tied with San Diego behind the Dodgers. But, the way the playoffs work, and look at last year, the Diamondbacks just demolished the Dodgers with all the home runs last year in the playoffs. Even if you don't win the division, I know it's a big deal because of the bye and all that kind of stuff. You may see each other again, and it's not the end of the world if you don't win the division.
Yeah, I think we've seen that. I mean, look, you had 2 wild card teams in the World Series last year. You've had a history of wild card teams. Once you get in, as the Diamondbacks proved last year again, if you get hot at the right time, it's not so much what your regular season record is, whether we agree with that or not, whether we think that's the way it should be or not. It doesn't matter. It's who's hot at the right time and who's hot in October. And I don't think there's no formula for how you do that. So, we'll see. It makes for a fascinating October, and right now we're having a fascinating race, kind of watching this wild card situation.
Well, you got to pitch, and look, let's face it. When you look at the loss column, the Diamondbacks 60 losses, San Diego 61, Atlanta 62, and then you still got to deal with the Mets and the Cubs and Cardinals and Giants. So I guess it's important to talk about pitching at least. For the Diamondbacks, and Merrill Kelly, who can't beat the Dodgers ever. I think he's 0-11 against the Dodgers. He gets crushed last night. but Gallen didn't have a good game on Thursday night. Where are we pitching-wise with the Diamondbacks?
Yeah, I think if you had told me that with the rotation the way it was going to be, or look the way it was going to be in spring training, that we'd be having to answer a question about the Diamondbacks rotation this time of year, I'd have been very surprised. But their hitting has been, they lead the majors in runs scored, which is a surprise. And the pitching, starting pitching in particular, just really hasn't quite lived up to its reputation or what it needs to do here recently for them. So that's something they're going to have to try to get rectified here before they get to October, because pitching is what wins you games in the postseason. And right now, Merrill Kelly, you got to cut him a little bit of slack because he was out for more than 4 months and just, I think that was his third start since coming back. And I think he's still trying to get his, command where he wants it to be. So that, he's got that excuse. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with Zach Gallen. It was kind of a tale of two outings for him the other night. First 2 innings were really rough, and then he settled in and pitched well. So it's been a matter of consistency for him. But I'll tell you who's been one of their best pitchers, the two guys that you wouldn't have expected necessarily to fill that role. Brandon Pfaadt and Ryan Nelson right now have been their 2 best starting pitchers.
Well, we're going to see the Diamondbacks Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Big games for the Giants, obviously trying to hang on here, and, of course, for Arizona fighting to get back into this thing with the Dodgers. What do we expect in this series coming up with the Giants? I imagine their sights are really on the Dodgers and not thinking too much about the Giants.
Well, I think their sights are trying to win as many games as they can. I don't think they certainly if you know this front office and, they're not taking anything for granted, they want to win every game they can. So they're not going to overlook the Giants in any way. Because, again, I don't think their focus this year has ever been on, hey, we got to win the division. I think it's just been on, hey, we got to get into the postseason and see what happens like we did last year. So I think they will come to San Francisco and not take the Giants lightly. At least I wouldn't imagine they would. They've done a nice job of not doing that. They went into Miami and swept Miami. They went into Boston and swept Boston. So I think that regardless of how this last 2 games with the Dodgers come out, I think they're still focused on the postseason.
Well, this is going to be fun this week with the Diamondbacks coming in and the Giants back against the wall. But Logan Webb today, probably an opener for the Tampa Bay for the Miami Marlins today. Darren Magone, MCAUGHAN, going for the Marlins today. He's only made 2 appearances for Miami recently, but it was with Miami, Cleveland, and Miami this year. So should be a good game for the Giants today. All right, more coming up. Kevin McAlpin, who covers the Braves on the Fan, 680 The Fan in Atlanta, does the pre and post on the radio, will be coming up with us next right here in the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Vince, I love to talk about my good friends at Georgie Brothers Furniture. They've served the Bay Area for over 90 years. Their talented staff work as a team to help their customers find beautiful pieces of furniture to invest in. The 50,000 square foot showroom, you've heard of it, is full of some of the finest manufacturers of furniture, carpets, and window coverings. Now, one of the most popular furniture lines that I own is stressless. You know, I love it. They make high-quality, comfortable furniture, including sectionals, sofas, love seats, single reclining chairs, as well as the one I've got, and that is the chair and ottoman. I love it. Starting August 30th and running all the way until October 21st, there's a new stressless promotion. It's called Fall Savings. During this sale, you'll receive an instant 10% savings on all stressless furniture. This can easily add up to hundreds of dollars. It's an unbelievable savings on one of the most well-made furniture products today. That's Georgie Brothers Furniture. The showroom is in South San Francisco with free parking. Since 1933, the best source for home furnishings. Visit them at GeorgieBrothers.com. That's GIORGIBROS.com. Remember to tell them Marty sent you. Experience the epitome of luxury and craftsmanship with Inicio Windows and Doors, another exciting product line from BMD Manufacturing. Inicio Windows and Doors sets the standard in ultra-premium European design. Wow. For the most demanding American building standards. Available both in steel and aluminum, they are meticulously engineered to elevate your living space to new heights of sophistication. Learn more about Inicio Windows and Doors today. Discover the perfect blend of European beauty and style with unwavering durability and strength. Visit InicioWindows.com. INICIO Windows.com. Inicio Windows and Doors, where European design meets American craftsmanship.
Prepping you for today's orange and black ball game, we now take you back to Talkin' Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
All right, great to have you back with us. By the way, the Giants have brought up Tristan Beck and Blake Sable as the third catcher, and Beck, of course, will help on the mound for the Giants. Those are their two moves to bring in September the 1st and get the roster up to 28. All right, Kevin McAlpin joins us. We love having Kevin on. He's a big fan of San Francisco. He's the pre- and post-game radio host on 680 The Fan for the Atlanta Braves. Kevin, how are you?
Marty, always good to be with you, my friend. Hope you're doing well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, boy, we saw the Braves when they were out here, and they took 3 or 4 from the Giants. Very important to get that tiebreaker over the Giants. But I think the Braves are quite a story. There's so many injuries. And, Kev, they're playing better ball now than they ever have.
It's amazing, Marty, that we're even having the conversation that they are a playoff team here on September the 1st. I mean, when you think about the fact they have had their opening day lineup spend a grand total of 6 innings together this entire season. Sean Murphy got hurt on opening day. He had the oblique. He missed a couple of months. Of course, while he was out, Ronald Acuna went down for the year. Spencer Strider hurt very early on in the first week of the season. He was done, and his year ended before it started. Here lately, now you're playing without Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies. Michael Harris missed a couple of months. And here they are, lo and behold, still a 2-game lead over the Mets for the final wild card spot in the National League. I think all hope is not lost on the National League East, but I think the Braves feel like just got to find a way to get in, hopefully get healthier down the stretch, get Riley, get Ozzie back for the end of September, and see what you can do in October. So, again, the fact that they are where they are, it really is. It's remarkable, again, considering their opening day lineup from March, whatever it was, 29th or 30th in Philadelphia, 6 whole innings together this entire season.
Well, the pitching is amazing. They've gone 20 games in a row. They're starting pitchers of giving up 3 earned runs or less, and you got to go back to Spain, Sane, and Spahn. And pray for rain in those days of the old Boston Braves last time they did that. So how about that?
Yeah, Chris Sale has been a huge addition to this team. You know, they got him right around the first of the year. I was actually on a trip with some buddies when the news came out, and a lot of them are going, what in the world are they getting Chris Sale for? Like, this guy's missed the last 4 years. What do they see in him? Well, obviously what they've seen in him is what they've gotten for the first 5 months of the season. He has been outstanding, probably the leader in the clubhouse for a Cy Young Award. Hard to believe he doesn't have one of those when you look at all of his accolades throughout the course of his career. But between what you've gotten out of Chris Sale and, of course, Reynaldo Lopez, who was signed to a 3-year, $30 million deal this offseason to be the primary setup guy to Raisel Iglesias, he was going to be your 7th and 8th inning guy. He's turned into a $10 million a year all-star pitcher for you this year. Then you've got guys like Max Fried, Charlie Morton. They've been, such stabilizing forces for you for a number of years. And then you find a guy in Spencer Schwellenbach, who you'll see tonight on Sunday Night Baseball. I'll be honest with you, Marty, when they brought him up, I said, who? Like, who is this? I never heard of him. I didn't know one thing about him. He wasn't one of the top pitching prospects in the organization, but he took that last spot, and he's run with it. So, yeah, pitching, defense, it's what it takes to win in October, and it's really a big reason why the Braves are even in the postseason conversation. Their rotation has been remarkable. Like you said, 20 games in a row, 3 runs or fewer allowed by your starters. It's something that's never happened in franchise history, and you think about it. With the Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, Avery, with Spahn and Sane, they have never had a run of 20 games in a row with 3 earned runs or fewer. It has just been remarkable to see the job these guys have done, stepping up to really keep this team afloat here. What's been a really, I'm sure, demoralizing year in that clubhouse.
Oh yeah, I love it. Spahn and Sane and pray for rain. That was the rotation that actually went to the World Series in 1948. Last time Cleveland won a World Series was 1948 over the old Boston Braves. Kevin McAlpin is with us. A pleasure to have him on. Kev, what does the schedule look like? The Mets are only a couple of games back. More games between the Braves and the Mets coming up?
It's interesting. The Braves' schedule actually gets rather easy. This is the last time they'll see the Phillies here tonight, and they do have the head-to-head tiebreaker against Philadelphia should that come into play. Don't know if it will or not. Phillies have a 6-game lead going into September. Braves will actually be off tomorrow on Labor Day. They'll come home and see the Rockies and the Blue Jays before a quick little trip to D.C. for a couple of games with the Nationals. So at least the next 7 to 10 games are more favorable on paper. You still got to go out and win those, obviously. And then what's very interesting is you get the Mets in the final week of the regular season, final homestand. You've got 3 with the Mets and 3 with the Kansas City Royals. So that could be a very interesting, who knows, the Royals may have things wrapped up by then. Kind of hope they do. Hope those games don't matter for Kansas City because they might mean a lot for the Braves going into those final weekend. But, yeah, that's a very intriguing final homestand. 3 with the Mets, 3 with the Royals here at Truist Park to end up the regular year.
Wow. How about Ozuna? Bruce Jenkins and I do this every week. We look at the Triple Crown possibilities. He's still in the mix for the Triple Crown. He really is.
It's unbelievable. For a guy, Marty, who late August of last year, fans wanted gone. I mean, his numbers were abysmal last year, and the Braves kept running him out there every single night, keeping him in the lineup. You know, they were. Here's what the amazing thing is, Marty. Last year he hits 40 bombs. He's going to go over 40 this year, and there's a chance he takes a pay cut next year because he made $18 million last year, $18 million this year, and the Braves have a $16 million club option on Marcell. So there's a chance he hits 80 home runs over a 2-year span and gets a pay cut out of it. It really is it's a very favorable deal for the Atlanta Braves. But, yeah, you look at the most home runs hit in the game since May the 1st last year. He's right there neck and neck with guys like Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. So, again, the impact that he has made both on and off the field. And, it's been really interesting to hear, the leader that he's become in the clubhouse. We all know that Marcell had some legal issues in his past, but he's been able to put those behind him. And if one of his teammates is struggling, he's the first guy to go over to him and give him an encouraging word of wisdom or pat him on the back and try to get him going a little bit. I've heard so many guys this year talk about what an impact he's made in that clubhouse this year. So that's been an added bonus for what he's brought to this team. But, yeah, it's incredible, man. We haven't seen a triple crown in the National League since 1937. Yep. He's got quite the uphill climb to catch Shohei with the homers. But, again, doing it with the homers and the RBI, and to have the average he does, over 300, it speaks volumes to just the hard work he's put in. And again, he's rewarded the organization for believing in him that he could put what was a just disastrous month of April a year ago behind it.
Amazing, really. I mean, no one saw this one coming. No one saw it. No. The great Ducky Medwick, the last Triple Crown winner in the National League, 1937 for the St. Louis Cardinals. Wow. You talk about defense. See, when you pitch, you got to have good defense. Now, Austin Riley's out. Maybe he'll come back if the Braves get to the World Series or something. But Urshela has played great defense. Not only is he getting a couple of timely hits, he's played great defense. And last night, Michael Harris maybe made the best catch I've seen all year, robbing a home run last night.
That catch was one that we're going to probably see over and over and over for a long time. He's made some highlight reel plays over the course of his career. I can envision a bobblehead next year, Marty, here at Truist Park of him, flailing out over the wall. I'm sure that's going to be in the works at some point. I thought it was interesting, too, the way he described catching that ball. He said, when you hit one really well, you almost don't feel it come off the bat. He goes, I almost didn't feel it land in my glove until I went over the fence and my glove sort of hit the padding on the other side. That's when he knew he had the ball in his glove. So he got a tip of the cap from Austin Hayes for catching it. Of course, Max Fried loved what he saw out there. It's one of the great catches we've seen. And like I said, he's made some really remarkable plays over the last handful of years. That's one that's going to be hard to top for sure. And then, of course, with Urshela, I think a lot of people look at Austin Riley as mostly a offensive player, but his defense keeps getting better and better every year. That, to me, was the one area I thought that's going to be big shoes to fill. But Gio Urshela has done a really nice job. And, for all the baseball gods have ruined this year for the Braves, they sort of smiled on the fact that when Austin got hurt, that was just around the time that Urshela had been cut loose by the Tigers. So it was a natural fit. He slides over here, and he's done a really nice job his first couple of weeks in a Braves uniform.
So how do you feel about this team? What's the best-case scenario here? Who knows? Look, they could come in fourth in the wild card. I don't think they're going to win the division, but they could do that and, host some games there. What's the upside here for this ball club? How far can they go here?
Well, I think they're pitching. If they keep getting the work they're getting out of Chris Sale and Reynaldo Lopez and with Max Fried, those guys are certainly postseason tested. So if these guys keep pitching the way they are, they're not going to have to score 5, 6, 7 runs a game. They can get by scoring 3 or 4 a night and more times than not put themselves in a position to win because of how good their bullpen's been. So I think, look at Arizona last year. They just found a way to get in, and they rode that all the way to the World Series. A couple of years ago, Philadelphia got in and got hot at the right time. I don't see any reason why this team can't get in a year where the National League, let's be honest, Marty, is just pretty wide open. I think this year, more than any, you feel like any of those 6 teams, whether they're a division winner or whether they're one of the 3 wild cards, any one of those 6 teams will have a chance to go and rip through and win a pennant, when all's said and done. So, again, I think that they feel like, again, with the addition of Chris Sale, he's really here when you think about the left-handed bats in Philly. Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Stott, the left-handed back to the Dodgers, and Freeman and Ohtani and Muncy. He's really here to help combat that once you get to postseason time. And who knows, maybe that'll be a big reason why the Braves can find a way to advance. So, again, I think that the sky's the limit for this team. And if they can get Ozzie Albies healthy, and if they can get Austin Riley back, and this team could just find a way to keep moving forward, I don't see any reason why they couldn't go on another long run in October.
Well, lefties can slow Arizona down, too. They're lefty-loaded also. And I know the Giants are going to throw probably two of them at Arizona this Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. One last thing for you. The guy shows up and plays every day, and he's starting to get hot again, and that's Olsen at first base. How about that?
Yeah, you know what? You knew it was there, right? I mean, it's the back of the baseball card speaks for itself. 54 homers, 130, whatever it was, RBI a year ago. You knew it was a matter of time, and what he has done, especially in Philadelphia, Marty, 24 career games at Citizens Bank Park, 14 home runs. He just wears out the Phillies in South Philadelphia. So hopefully he can have a moment or two in front of the eyes of the baseball world here tonight on Sunday Night Baseball, and hopefully get the Braves a victory so they can split this 4-game series. But yeah, look, it's been great to see the job that Matt has done. Again, the year he put up last year was going to be hard to beat. And what's funny is I heard some conversation during spring training that he this offseason went and tweaked his swing a little bit. I'm thinking you hit 54 home runs and 138 RBIs. I wouldn't change a thing, but he wanted to become a more all-around hitter. But, yeah, this is more along the lines of the Matt Olson we were, used to seeing from a year ago, and hopefully he can do this for another, 5 or 6 weeks moving forward.
Well, we got a month to go, and as I said to Bruce Jenkins and Ron Wotus today, something always happens in September. There's always something. So who knows? Let's see if the Braves hang on and continue this streak that they're on, which is just amazing. And the Cubs scoring runs like they haven't scored since 1935. And the Mets are back, and the Giants just won't go away. And so we'll see what happens. It's going to be fun. Kev, great report. Always a pleasure having you on, and we love seeing you out here in the Bay Area.
You got it, Marty. Be well, my friend.
All right, that is Kevin McAlpin, does the pre- and post radio for the Braves on 680 The Fan in Atlanta. Boy, what a series coming up. This is going to be fun with Arizona coming up, but the Giants have got to take care of business today with the Miami Marlins, and that's the key for me. So, Kerry Crowley, it's not great, but they're still, it's Miracle Max. They're dead, almost dead, not quite dead.
Yeah, it's funny, Marty. I heard you say the Giants just won't go away. They went away in my mind about 2 weeks ago. I mean, this isn't a team that I think has any sort of a chance. Are you still holding out some hope here?
Well, yeah, always in baseball you do. But I'm after seeing the hitting, honestly, over the last 10 days or so, it's like the Braves. I mean, the Braves go out and they get pitching every single game, and 20 games in a row, pitchers 3 earned runs or less. You can go 20 games in a row, and the Giants just don't hit enough. They just don't hit enough, and you can't put it on the kids. So for me, that's the issue, and the pitching has not been great. But with all that said and done, how good is Atlanta and the Mets and the Cubs and all that? It's baseball, so you still hope. But I give him to the end of the Arizona series. It better get dramatically better by then.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. It better get dramatically better. But I think we've been waiting all season for really a 15-game stretch where they go 12-3 or 11-4. And we just haven't seen it. And you point to the hitting, and that's exactly the issue, I think. Marty, I look at this lineup, and there's some nice players in the lineup. I think Lamont Wade Jr., his on-base percentage is good. I think that Mike Yastrzemski puts together a competitive at-bat for you. But the issue with the Giants, I think, is you've got those guys at premium power positions. I mean, Yastrzemski's playing right field, and right fielders are expected to produce 20 to 30 home runs a season. Lamont Wade is playing first base, and you can take on base percentage from a shortstop or a second baseman, but you can't take on base percentage as the calling card from your first baseman. I think that's the issue that the Giants have run into is too many of their guys don't fit the traditional baseball lineup. And so you've got this team that I think individually you've had some nice stories, and individually there's some good pieces, but it's worse than the sum of its parts, and it's September 1st, and I think that they need to take a long, hard look at the roster this offseason and see where they can get some of those home runs from, where they can get that power production from, because what they've got constructed right now is a lineup that might work, but there are too many mights and too many maybes and not enough definites, you know?
Well, they need a first baseman. They need a right field. And Bruce and I talked about this today quite a bit. They need a shortstop. And, Fitzgerald can slide over to second. Then he looks like a kid who can play.
Yeah.
The speed works, and he's got some power, obviously. And he's hanging in there. They're throwing him a lot of breaking stuff now. Ramos, same thing, breaking stuff. And, he's done his best. I think he's here. But they need some power. And so my point is this, no matter who the general manager, president is, whatever Farham wants to call himself, at some point you have to make a signature move.
Mm-hmm.
At some point you've got to make that signature move and trade for McCaffrey. Whatever it is, you've got to make that move that says, okay, we're going for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the move he has not been able to make in his tenure here.
Yeah.
So this is where it's got to happen, whether you sign Alonso or you overpay right away for Chapman and for Snell, or you trade for Vladdy and give them what they want for Vladdy and bring him in. There's that signature move that I'm waiting for. And I think that's the key to the offseason. You just can't go into the offseason trying to piece it together with pieces here and there, and maybe this, maybe that. No, you've got to break the bank a little bit, and you've got to shake the world up a little bit.
You're absolutely correct, and you know how much I hate saying that, Marty. But you are.
That's correct. 100%. You and Andy Bagley hate saying it, but I'm generally right.
You're generally right. It's true, and I think what we need to see from the Giants is a big and bold vision, and it can't just be 3 players here and 4 prospects coming up to help. The Giants went into spring training this year expecting that Tristan Beck, who came up today, which is great to see, and Keaton Winn would hold down the 4th and 5th starter jobs in the rotation, and that was their plan going into spring training. They ultimately signed Blake Snell. Keaton Winn and Tristan Beck were both dealing with injuries at that point. But next year, you need a real 5th starter competition. You need 3 or 4 veteran guys in here who are ready to take the ball from day one of the regular season and give you 30 starts and give you 150, 160 innings. And maybe those guys are Logan Webb, Robbie Ray, and Jordan Hicks. Maybe Kyle Harrison can be thrown in there. But you need a bigger, bolder plan, in my opinion. That's why I like the idea of giving Snell that long-term contract, because he might be the best available starter to you. You also need real definitive pieces in your lineup. You need to look at this lineup next year, Marty, and say, this is our 2-hitter, this is our 3-hitter, this is our 4-hitter, and we're comfortable and confident. Obviously, they felt that Jung-Hoo Lee was going to be the leadoff man this year, and Jorge Soler was going to be a middle-of-the-order bat, and things didn't work out that way, in part because of Lee's early season injury. But you'd like to say, you know what? This year, Elliot Ramos might be the 6 or the 7 hitter because we've added that much might in the offseason to the lineup. And right now, I think the Giants are just, they're stuck because they haven't gotten enough from the definitive pieces. It's been nice to line up Matt Chapman at third base every single day, but there need to be other players that you can count on every single day for regular production. And that's what this team has lacked over the last 3 seasons.
Yeah, and also, look, the ballpark requires good pitching, good defense, and some gap-to-gap hitting. Mm-hmm. You have to have that. So you got to get better hitters. That's for me. You got to get better hitters. So I think we agree on it. But for me, a general manager, president, whatever you want to call him, they make signature moves in their tenure. And I'm waiting for that signature move that changes the landscape of this ball club. Because, look, Arizona's last 2 games, they drew 90,000 down here.
It's incredible.
Come on.
It's
look,
a fun place to watch
you've
a
lived
game.
down here.
Oh, yeah.
you can't get 90,000 ever for anything here. Really, even a football game. So
it's true.
You got that going on. You got the whole Dodgers circus going on, which is just nuts. And you got the Padres selling out every game. So you just can't go at this thing by saying, let's get a new 25th guy on the roster. You really have to look at it and do it correctly. And I think they have to. And if he can't do that, if that's not his MO and he doesn't feel comfortable doing it, you've got to get a general manager, a president that likes to do that, because that's the reality of baseball today. So once again, the ball's in his court. He tried. He really did try last year with all the free agent signings that fell in his lap, and it didn't work. It just didn't work. But now what you're left with is sort of the smoldering ashes of that. And now you've got to rise like the Phoenix here and come up with a new team. And that's what's got to happen.
Well, smoldering ashes and the mosaic don't go too well together, Marty. I think that those are never words you want to utter when you're talking about the mosaic when it's near its end point, huh?
No. And look, 69 losses, and they should win today. The matchup today favors them tremendously with Logan Webb on the hill, and then you get 3 with Arizona. They will be coming off this emotional series with the Dodgers that they've lost the first 2, and they've got 2 more. So maybe you can somehow get lucky against Arizona, but it's got to start right now. It's got to start right now. And let's see. I love September baseball. I never give up. And there's with 25 games to go, when you're 10 back with 18 to go, you're done. 7 or 8 back with 25 to go, there's still some life.
There's still some life, but they've got maybe the most difficult September schedule in baseball, and the offense is just getting worse. So I don't know. The signs aren't so good right now, Marty.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
That's pretty much a summary of what we can expect in the next hour,
Yeah. All right. Well, let me bring up one other point.
Of course.
And we do sports talk here, and that is the Ricky Pearsall situation with the young man who was shot yesterday in Union Square in a robbery attempt. And I think everyone is pulling for him to be okay, and it looks like he will be okay. But, boy, that was a shocker in the world yesterday of Bay Area sports.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I was stunned when I saw that news, and really devastating to see. And, the early reports are that Pearsall is going to be okay and that he's in stable condition. And it's just, my heart goes out to the family, because here's a first-round draft pick who, he played his college ball at Florida. He comes all the way across the country to play for the 49ers. He's living out his dream. And before he can even step on the field, this happens. And it's a moment that reminds you that there's so much more to life than just sports. And you hope that he's okay. You hope that his family's okay. And you hope that everyone involved is able to recover, because it really, really, my heart was sinking yesterday when I saw that news, Marty. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, I'm glad we could. I think it was devastating for everybody to hear it. And, the example, it was over a Rolex, and is it worth it?
No.
So that's the story, the lesson we learn all the time. And here's a young man who commits the crime, and for the rest of his life, he gave up his life, basically, with a robbery attempt, with a gun, with a great bodily injury. Well, I've done these cases before.
Yep.
He's looking at some very, very serious prison time. And as an adult, as a 17-year-old, they'll make him an adult. So there's no winners in the thing. So so we'll have to see how that plays out all week. But I hope the kid is okay. I hope
Absolutely.
Ricky is okay. All right. Well, that's a story for me. We'll see what happens. Now the schedule really gets crazy, and that's going to be the fun of it. How did Arizona State do yesterday?
Arizona State won in shocking fashion, Marty. The Sun Devils outperformed your Gators yesterday. They defeated the Wyoming Cowboys. I think it was something like 48-7. So good luck to the Florida Gators, the San Francisco Giants of college football.
It's the coach, I must tell you. But
an Arizona State guy, by the way, Billy Napier. I covered him when he was down in the desert.
As I told Sarah Sanchez yesterday, don't tell me what happened, because I've taped the game and I've heard enough of it already where I'm not going to watch it. So
yeah,
it's okay.
I think you're making the right call.
Yeah. Christina DiNiccolo. Do you know her?
I do, yeah. Marlins beat reporter for MLB.com.
Yeah, she was on yesterday. She's a University of Miami grad, so we had that going yesterday.
Of course.
When I had her on. So it's fun. All right. Great to talk to you. Enjoy the weekend, and I'll talk to you next week.
Always. Looking forward to it, Marty. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Kerry. All right. That's our show for today, Raph. Great job as always. Glad that everyone could be with us on this Sunday, and we'll be back next Saturday at 2 o'clock. But right now, coming up on KNBR is the Giants warm-up with our dear friend. He's fabulous, and that is Kerry Crowley.
Seam heads, start cracking those peanuts and spitting those seeds, because gloves are soon to be popping.
He makes a headlong dive and makes the catch.
And bats are going to get cracking.
Blast one! Deep right field! Gone!
Welcome to KNBR's Giants warm-up.
Way back there! Goodbye!
On the sports leader.
All right, we are back. Kerry Crowley hanging out with you as we get set for the rubber match between the Giants and the Marlins. Logan Webb takes the hill, the Giants ace, trying to get this team back to 500 this afternoon. For whatever that's worth at this point in the season, not much time left. The standings, well, they don't look favorable for the San Francisco Giants, but there's work to be done, and there's work to be done as we diagnose what's gone wrong for the San Francisco Giants. They finished the month of August at 14-13, but it was a soft portion of their schedule. They needed to do much better. They needed to win about 20 games in the month of August to give themselves an opportunity here in the National League wildcard race, and instead they took a step backward. That's been the story of this 2024 season. We're going to diagnose some of the issues that this organization has encountered, not just this season, but what's led to the underperformance over the last 3 years for the San Francisco Giants. We'll dive into that and the players worth keeping moving forward into 2025. I'm Kerry Crowley. This show is Giants Warm Up. We're rolling with you to the start of the Giants pregame show. Tune in all afternoon here for Giants baseball here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Now back to the show built for the orange and black family. This is Giants Warm Up on KNBR, the sports leader.
All right, we're back here on Giants Warm Up. Kerry Crowley helping get you set for Giants baseball on the radio. The San Francisco Giants taking on the Miami Marlins in a rubber match at Oracle Park this afternoon. First pitch coming your way at 1:05. Our extended pregame show begins at 12:05. You can expect this date in Giants history, our diamond notes, around the park with Kruk and Kipe, all the usual trimmings we have on this Sunday morning for you. So looking forward to this conversation about Giants baseball. And really, I think September 1st is a good day for every ball club to take stock of where they stand, to look at the expectations that they entered into the 2024 season with, evaluate how they performed to date, and understand what needs to change moving forward for them as they head toward the end of the season and as they head toward October baseball. And in the case of the San Francisco Giants, I think the discussion needs to start way back at the general manager meetings last offseason in Scottsdale, Arizona, where Farhan Zaidi, the Giants' president of baseball operations, he came out and essentially said what has transpired in 2022 and 2023 for the Giants as an organization is unacceptable. Finishing at 500, finishing under 500, taking steps backward after the incredible 107-win season in 2021 in which the Giants failed to build off of. And so they go forward and they make changes last year. At the end of the regular season, Gabe Kapler is fired as manager. The Giants start a hunt for a veteran, experienced manager known as a communicator, and they hire Bob Melvin away from the San Diego Padres. And the Giants were hoping internally that this would be the second time in organizational history that they'd be able to pluck a veteran manager from the Padres, take him away while he's still under contract, and move forward with some momentum into the following season. They were able to do that with Bruce Bochy way back when, and this year they were hoping that Bob Melvin would provide the spark for the San Francisco Giants. And they also didn't leave it to just Bob Melvin to provide the spark for the Giants. Ownership and the front office committed to spending in a way that we've yet to see basically since Farhan Zaidi took over as the president of baseball operations. I remember that introductory press conference way back in November of 2018 when the Giants entered a new era. They chose a next gen, in the words of Larry Baer, president of baseball operations. They were moving into an era that basically the rest of Major League Baseball had embraced, an era dominated by analytics, some new age thinking, some modern ways of approaching the sport, and moving away from the Brian Sabean and Bobby Evans tactics that had brought the Giants to 3 World Series titles in 2010, 2012, and 2014, but had also resulted in an incredibly disappointing 98-loss season in 2017. And a very frustrating 2018 campaign in which the Giants had traded for Andrew McCutchen. They'd landed Evan Longoria in a deal with the Tampa Bay Rays, and they had once again taken a step backward. It wasn't quite a 98-loss season like they saw in 2017, but they understood as an organization that they needed to make meaningful change, and they were hoping that Zaidi would be the catalyst behind that change. And so it took until 2021 for the Giants to really take a major step forward, and they did that season, winning 107 games. Gabe Kapler is the manager, pushing all of the right buttons. But the real failure for this organization, as we've discussed many times on Giants warm-ups of the past, and I'm sure we'll be discussing many times in the future as we really take stock of the 2024 season and evaluate the way that things have fallen apart for the Giants in San Francisco over the last few years. I think that failing to build off of that season, turning in a 500 year in 2022, winning just 79 games last year, and not bringing enough internal talent, enough internal impactful talent up to the big league level and finding success has really cost the Giants as an organization. You go back to 2 off seasons ago, the Giants essentially had to mine through free agency to fill out their roster, and they were filling out the middle of their roster. It was a roster that, needed a Michael Conforto in the outfield, needed a Sean Manaea and a Ross Stripling on the mound, Taylor Rogers in the bullpen. And here's one thing that I think we all think about in free agency is that it can be so exciting to bring in these veteran players, these new players to your organization, to inject some life, to inject some optimism, and inject some hope into what the Giants really needed, a roster that was deficient in terms of talent compared to the rest of the National League West. But I think it's also important to understand that players become free agents for a reason. Either A, they're the top of the market, best possible players available who sign $100+ million contracts. If you're A-list superstars, $300+ million contracts. Or B, you're middle tier veteran free agents who are flawed to one degree or another. And throughout Farhan Zaidi's tenure in San Francisco, the Giants have kind of specialized in signing the flawed players who come to the organization with some sort of a deficiency, some sort of an issue that made them unappealing to re-sign with their current squad or the team that they had been with in the past. And so you look at someone like a Michael Conforto, and he was coming off of a major injury when he signed his deal with the San Francisco Giants. You look at someone like a Taylor Rogers, who got, I believe, $33 million over 3 seasons from the San Francisco Giants. And he was a really good big league reliever. But did he throw 99, 100 miles an hour? Did he have wipeout stuff that could make him a closer? No. And so when you become a veteran free agent as a relief pitcher, typically it means you're okay, you're pretty good, but there are reasons that happens. And those reasons lead the teams that you're employed by to seek alternative options, whether it be through trades, whether it be inside the organization. And you look at players who bounce around from team to team, never really finding a home. Those aren't your foundational players. Those aren't your core players, the guys who are going to build your roster into an annual contender. And I think when you look at the 2024 San Francisco Giants, they really thought that through the process of acquiring a number of different free agents last offseason, that they were fortifying the core of their roster. When they brought in Jung-Hoo Lee on the 6-year, $113 million deal, I think that they believed that they were signing a truly impactful top-of-the-lineup bat who could just settle into center field and play 140, 150 games for this team so that they wouldn't have to think about who was running out there to center field and who was batting leadoff on a daily basis. I think when you sign Matt Chapman over at third base, you just believe that you're going to leave that position alone. And for the most part in 2024, the Giants have. Chapman's been one of the team's most productive players. Bob Melvin has never really had to tinker over at third base. That has worked for this organization. But you look at some of the other free agent acquisitions the Giants made last offseason. Jordan Hicks, they took a gamble on Hicks being able to be a starting pitcher for this team over the long haul. 4 years, $44 million. And I think over 4 years, it might prove to be a smart gamble and a smart bet. But you look at this year in Jordan Hicks, and by the All-Star break, he lost his effectiveness. He was no longer able to take down starter-level innings. And here on September 1st, he's on the injured list. He's fatigued. He's not able to give the Giants the innings that they need at this juncture of the season. You look at Blake Snell, he signed late. He wasn't able to give the Giants the innings they needed at the beginning of the season. He's now doing it late, but it's almost too little too late. It's almost $30 million. I don't want to say wasted because Snell has been incredibly fun and entertaining to watch during the second half of this season, but he's not going to make a playoff start for this team, barring a miracle run in the month of September that I don't think any of us expect to happen, particularly when you look at the strength of schedule that the Giants are up against in the month of September. All games, for the most part, against winning teams, against teams that are headed toward October baseball. And so the Giants rebuilt their roster. They reshaped the top of their roster last offseason, but they also did so because they have not brought up enough difference makers from the farm system over the last 3 to 4 seasons. And Farhan Zaidi did not have a huge farm system to work with. He did not have top-of-the-line prospects in 2018, 2019, 2020 that he'd inherited from Brian Sabian and Bobby Evans, guys who projected to be the face of an organization, guys who projected to be future core players. But through a combination of his development and the organization's development and their practices and player acquisition from the outside, over the last 2 seasons, the Giants have essentially had a roster that was built on free agents at the top, middling prospects in the middle, and players who could cycle through the 26-man roster back and forth from AAA to the big leagues and on the DFA train to other rosters around Major League Baseball at the bottom of their roster. And what it has given the Giants over the last 2 seasons is a product that is inferior to other organizations. You see that in their 68 and 69 record entering the month of September. And it's given them a lack of consistency, a lack of momentum, and ultimately an organization that inspires fan apathy. And I think that is the biggest issue for the Giants, is they were hoping that last year they would strike gold with the right combination of free agents and the right combination of players coming up through the minor league farm system. Marco Luciano, Luis Matos, Kyle Harrison, some of the faces of that next wave who were projected to make a major impact this season. And ultimately, it's just been a combination of not enough guys producing to the level that the Giants expected, not enough guys playing up to the contracts that they were given in San Francisco, and an organization that feels stuck in the middle at 68 and 69. A Giants team that has fallen behind the Chicago Cubs in the wild card race, that sits well behind the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves in the wild card race, that isn't particularly close to the Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Diego Padres in the National League West, 8.5 games behind each of those teams. And to me, it all adds up to an organization that needs to make philosophical changes. And we said that at this juncture of last season. As the Giants were beginning to fall apart in the month of September, it became clear they needed new leadership at the manager level, and they needed to change their player acquisition process to rely more heavily on either superior free agents or internal talents coming through the organization who are going to be core players moving forward. And I think that on this date, September 1st, as we look at a Giant squad that is not headed for playoff baseball, that is ultimately going to disappoint a massive number of the fans who entered this season with high hopes, we need to realistically ask what changes can be made this offseason. What can the Giants do differently, and do they have the right people in charge right now to make those changes? Because this is year 6 of the Farhan Zaidi tenure as president of baseball operations in San Francisco with the Giants. And in 6 years, his tenure has not netted the Giants with nearly enough impact prospects. There have been great stories. Tyler Fitzgerald at the shortstop position has been a good story during the second half of this season, even as he started to cool off of late. Elliot Ramos, his player development, non-linear, very different than other guys. He fell behind on the depth chart during spring training, and then he goes out and hits 20 home runs this season. That's a great story for the Giants. But you look at some of the other players who were projected to make a difference. Kyle Harrison, the stuff has clearly ticked down this year. I love his competitiveness. I love his demeanor, but it is abundantly clear to me that I think the Giants should shut him down for the remainder of the season, should enable him to come back with some significant tweaks next year, and hope that maybe changing his arm slot, changing his stuff a little bit can help him unlock the next level, because otherwise you're looking at a mid to back end of the rotation starter instead of the front-end starter that he was projected to be. Then you've got Marco Luciano, who was anticipated to be, back when Farhan Zaidi spoke at the general manager meetings last November, the shortstop for the San Francisco Giants for the majority of this 2024 season. You figure maybe they start the season with someone like a Nick Ahmed, but quickly they'd move off of him if Luciano forced his way into the picture. It's clearly not the case. They were hoping that Luis Matos and Wade Meckler would take the next steps forward in the outfield and project to play alongside Jung-Hoo Lee for the foreseeable future. Lee gets hurt. Matos takes a step back at the plate this year. Meckler injured for much of the year and not really on the radar of the top end of the organization for much of the season. And you're talking about a Giants team that had really high hopes for its free agents, really high hopes for its internal talent who's been developing for the last several seasons, projected to make a difference this year, and they're coming up short. And you come up short enough, as the Giants have done really in 2022, 2023, and I'm projecting them to do here in 2024. I'm not anticipating a whole lot down the stretch for this Giants team that, like I said, has a really difficult schedule moving forward. And it's time to consider major changes to the organization. Now, whether that's moving forward with a new president of baseball operations, maybe that's, going back to some of the philosophies of Brian Sabian and Bobby Evans and figuring out ways to dominate your home ballpark, figuring out ways to zig when others are zagging, to play small ball in an era when teams are launching the ball out of the ballpark, to rely just all in on prospects in your farm system and go so heavy on player development that you've got a next wave of players that is going to make an impactful, measurable difference at the major league level instead of blending what the Giants have done, which is bringing in B-list free agents from the outside and their own B-list prospects and getting a bunch of high floor but low ceiling talent at the major league level, where you've got a bunch of guys who are, for the most part, part-time players, but not enough guys who you can say, hey, he's a starter, he's playing every day, and we're not worried about that position like Matt Chapman has done for the Giants at the third base spot. And so I think the Giants are going to be in full evaluation mode as an organization, and particularly as an ownership group led by Greg Johnson. They're going to need to completely evaluate the way that things have gone wrong over the last 3 seasons and take an honest look at where the organization stands, because what we've seen over the last 3 seasons, everyone knows is not good enough. What we saw last night against the Marlins, what we saw in the month of August against the A's, against the White Sox, teams the Giants should be blowing out, should be beating up on, not good enough. And so this is an organization that has struggled in a variety of facets. You can't just pinpoint the issues in one area, and when that happens, it's time for major change. It's time for the Giants to take serious stock of the organization moving forward, and it's time to see what the next iteration of the San Francisco Giants can look like, because the current vision isn't working. We all know that. It's time for the Giants ownership to face those facts and to figure out what they must do moving forward to change things in San Francisco with this ball club. I'm Kerry Crowley. The show is Giants Warmup. More when we come back as we get you set for the rubber match of this series between the San Francisco Giants and the Miami Marlins. You're listening to Giants Warmup, KNBR 104.5, 680, the sports leader.
Giants fans, first pitch isn't too far away as KNBR's Giants warm-up continues on the sports leader.
All right, we are back here on Giants Warm-Up. Kerry Crowley rolling with you to the start of our Giants pregame show. Begins at 12:05 today. First pitch coming your way from Oracle Park, 1:05 p.m. Pacific time, as the Giants look to win this series against the Miami Marlins and get back to 500, whatever that means here on September 1st. 500, clearly not where the Giants wanted to be, not where it takes to get into this National League wildcard race. The Giants enter the day 6.5 games out, but behind several teams contending now for that third wildcard spot. The Atlanta Braves in control of it, the New York Mets fighting hard, and the Chicago Cubs making a late push as well. The Giants, the Cincinnati Cardinals, both enter the day well out of this wildcard race and staring up at a long list of teams ahead of them. Of course, the Padres and the Diamondbacks tied for the first two slots in the wildcard right now. They'll settle that over the course of the month of September. But as I said in our last segment, the Giants can't look ahead, look forward to October baseball the way that they anticipated to when this 2024 season began. We knew that this September schedule would be tough. We knew that they might be facing an uphill battle to get into the playoffs, but we didn't think that they'd be sitting under 500 entering the month of September, given all the investment that the organization had made last offseason, all the changes that took place last offseason in transitioning from Gabe Kapler to Bob Melvin, in upgrading the top end of this Giants roster with players such as Jung-Hoo Lee, Blake Snell, Matt Chapman, Jorge Soler, and only a few of those guys have worked out for the San Francisco Giants. So regardless of whether the ownership group decides to continue with president of baseball operations Farhan Zaidi operating in his current role or goes in a different direction at the end of this offseason, one of the things that I wanted to do today as we stare down the final month of regular season baseball is look at each individual position for the San Francisco Giants and determine whether serious change is needed entering 2025. And I think we start at the catcher position, where Patrick Bailey is back from the injured list right now, but clearly, as he prepares for his 100th game of the season, he struggled mightily. The OPS has dropped to 628. He's become simply too much of a glove-first player at the position. The Giants aren't getting enough. They signed Tom Murphy last offseason to platoon with Bailey, at least on days when the Giants would face left-handed starters. Murphy goes down early in the season with the knee injury. Joey Bart ends up tearing it up a little bit for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and it hasn't been a good look for the Giants at the catcher position this year, as it's the second straight season in which Bailey's offensive stats have nosedived during the second half. So clearly the Giants need an upgraded platoon partner for Bailey this offseason. They don't have a full-timer at the position, and I think that it's important for the Giants to really think long and hard about how much they can ask of Bailey and whether an 81 to 90 game workload is preferable to the 100 to 120 game workload that they sought for him at the beginning of this season. Over at first base, the Giants entered the year with Lamont Wade Jr. and Wilmer Flores. Both of those guys projected as part-time players, and because of injuries to Flores that ultimately knocked him out for the season and various injuries to Wade, the Giants haven't gotten the production that they anticipated out of this position. You look at Lamont Wade Jr.'s on-base percentage, .396, one of the best in the National League. That's a positive development for this team. The negative development is that his slug has dropped all the way to .378, just 5 homers, 14 doubles, fewer than 20 extra base hits entering the month of September. It's not going to cut it. You're playing a position where power is expected, and the Giants need more power at first base next year, whether that's a big splash with Pete Alonso this offseason, whether that's finding someone inside the organization who can ultimately provide that power in the long run. I'm looking at Bryce Eldridge down at High A Eugene, thinking about the 2026 season as a projected date when he can make his debut. That is the long-term hope, but clearing up a path in the short term for other players to make an impact at that position, that's critical. You look at second base this year, where the Giants entered with high hopes for Thairo Estrada, and they entered the month of September with Estrada being outrighted to AAA Sacramento after he'd been placed on waivers earlier this week. Clearly, Estrada was going to be non-tendered this offseason. The OPS dipped under 600 this year. It just never worked for the Giants at the position. Brett Wisely showed some hope during the first half of the season, but again, His offensive numbers have tanked during the second half of the year. You would think that he sees more time as a part-time guy, maybe a fifth or sixth infielder next year for the Giants, but I don't think that you can count on Wisely to lock down second base. And I don't know what the Giants do at that position, but there have not been really any positive developments at second base. There's no one in the farm system who makes you think he could take over that spot. Maybe it's Marco Luciano next year, but ultimately the Giants will probably have to hit the free agent market or the trade market to find a second baseman. Now, shortstop is an interesting position for the Giants because I think we can all agree that Tyler Fitzgerald's been a revelation during the second half of this season. It's just so rare when you see a 26-year-old with a career 33, 34% strikeout percentage in the minor leagues come up and make the type of impact that he has. But Fitzgerald's been great during the second half of the year, has cooled off a little bit during the second half of August, really had a hot month from the time right before the All-Star break to about the middle of August. But I think given the issues that the Giants have had, maybe you sign a Ha-Seong Kim in free agency and hope that he can play some second for you, maybe spell Fitzgerald at shortstop. But I do think that it's worth taking a longer look at Fitzgerald in 2025. He needs a day off here and there during the month of September. I hope he doesn't wear down, but to me, Fitzgerald is as promising as any player the Giants have had in the late years of Brandon Crawford's career with the Giants, and now in the post-Crawford era with the Giants. They've struggled for years, even with Crawford in the organization, to develop a true shortstop. Luciano was not the answer at that position, and so Fitzgerald might be the guy moving forward. Over at third base, I think that the Giants are going to be forced to take a good, long, hard look at re-signing Matt Chapman and paying him whatever he commands in free agency, because Chapman is someone who has done a very good, solid job for the Giants. He's allowed Bob Melvin to forget about third base when he sets the lineup every day, plays great defense, and they don't have anyone in the farm system who projects to be a third baseman for this ball club. And so Chapman, to me, will enter free agency. He'll opt out, but he looks like the guy moving forward at that spot if they're able to get him a contract this offseason. If not, it could be a long winter searching for a third baseman of the future for the Giants. Now, you look at the outfield, and clearly to me, Elliot Ramos needs to come back in a corner outfield role, likely starting in left field as Michael Conforto hits free agency. They're projecting Jung-Hoo Lee as the center fielder. I think you might be able to say Grant McCray could be a fifth outfielder for this team. Wade Meckler could be a fifth outfielder for this team if he gets healthy. But expect Luis Matos, Meckler, or McCray, expect at least one of those guys to be dealt in a trade this offseason. The Giants need to look for upgrades at various positions. And I don't know if Mike Yastrzemski will be back in San Francisco. He's got a 732 OPS this season. That's 9% above league average at the right field position. He's played great defense, but clearly this is a lineup that needs more than 11 home runs from its right fielder. It didn't get a whole lot from the DH position this year in Jorge Soler, who hit 12 before he was traded. And so I think that the Giants need to seek upgrades, at least at one of the corner outfield slots, and leave Elliot Ramos at the other as they look forward to welcoming Jung-Hoo Lee back. Now, in the rotation, the Giants are going to be facing some very difficult decisions because obviously Logan Webb is the ace of this staff. He's been tremendous since taking over in that role during the second half of the 2021 season. They've got a bona fide Cy Young candidate each and every season. When Webb takes the mound, he will get Cy Young votes, I believe, this year because he'll lead the major league in innings, something he did last year. He's just so valuable, and they need to give him more help. Obviously, next year, Jordan Hicks will begin the season in the rotation, assuming all is well with his arm. He seems just fatigued right now for the spot on the 15-day IL. I think that Blake Snell will opt out. You'll have Robbie Ray coming back. They will hope that Robbie Ray can live up to the $25 million he'll be owed next year, but they'll project him into the middle of that rotation. I think you need a huge step forward from Kyle Harrison and Hayden Birdsong, but really what you need is 2 to 3 established major league starters so that you got a true competition for those fourth and fifth slots for Harrison, for Birdsong, for maybe Mason Black, who I thought threw the ball okay yesterday, and Carson Wisenhunt, who's coming through the farm system and could make his major league debut next season. So I think that's something to watch. And then in the bullpen, obviously you want Ryan Walker back, but I think that the Giants should be open to moving any and all of their relievers this offseason. They were certainly open to moving Taylor Rogers this week, who's got a 2.61 ERA this year and is under contract for next year. Tyler Rogers has been one of the most overworked pitchers in Major League Baseball, but 3.06 ERA, very solid, 27% above league average. He's proven dependable. Could be someone who was dangled in a trade this offseason. Camilo Doval, we know that the Giants weren't in love with him when they sent him back to AAA Sacramento. He's got a real live arm. If he can pitch well during the month of September, wouldn't shock me to see him included in a deal this offseason. But again, I think the Giants need to consider major changes to this roster moving forward. I think that you look at the strengths and the weaknesses of this team, and there's potential for this pitching staff to be a strength next year, but they need a lot of difference makers in the lineup on the offensive side, and they need some big changes just to make this lineup competitive, to make this lineup fearsome again, because it's been 3 seasons since the year 2021 when the Giants hit a ton of home runs, when they pummeled the ball, when Oracle Park looked small. Once again, it's looking like a very difficult place to hit. And I think that philosophically, they might need some changes. They need some speed. They need some athleticism, which is why I'm in favor of bringing someone like Fitzgerald back and relying on him in 2025. But at first base, right field, you've got to have more power. Up the middle, shortstop, second base, question marks for the Giants, even if I do believe in Tyler Fitzgerald long-term. And then at the catcher position, they've got to get more offensively, because for as good as Patrick Bailey is with the glove, we've now seen this 2 years in a row where he's fallen off at the plate, and the Giants can't have that be a lingering issue for this ball club. So when we come back, got a few reads for you. We're drawing you closer to first pitch here at Oracle Park, 1:05 when the Giants take the field today in this rubber match against the Miami Marlins, trying to get back to 500 again, for whatever that's worth on September 1st when they're sitting on the outside of this wild card race looking in. I'm Kerry Crowley. You're listening to Giants Warm Up here on KNBR 104.5, 680, the sports leader.
Our KNBR Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the Sports Leader.
All right, we're back here on Giants warm-up. Kerry Crowley rolling with you, getting you set for the Giants pregame show. Time for a few sponsored reads here. First up, our detailed measurement of the week, the longest Giants home run of the week, which is sponsored by Abundant Life Weight Loss. Call 925-594-7110. That's 925-594-7110 to start your journey today. The longest home run of the week hit by a member of the San Francisco Giants. How about Grant McCray's 422-foot shot in Milwaukee, his third home run of his young career? The Giants hope there will be many more. Up next, it's time for our Alameda County Probation Department standings update. Visit joinacpd.org today. For a career that matters, folks, it's September 1st, and the National League West standings don't look pretty for the San Francisco Giants. They sit a full 14 and a half games back behind the first-place Los Angeles Dodgers. They're 8 games out of second place as the Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Diego Padres, both tied for second place, 6 games behind the Dodgers right now. Giants 6.5 out in the wild card. The Atlanta Braves hold control of that third wild card slot at 74 and 62. The Mets right behind them at 72 and 64. Don't forget the Chicago Cubs, 70 and 66, and another team ahead of the San Francisco Giants entering ball games on Sunday, the St. Louis Cardinals at 68 and 68. Up next, it's your Giants pregame show here on KNBR 104.5 680, the sports leader.
Beautiful Sunday here in San Francisco. We're inside Oracle Park for Giants baseball. The Giants and the Miami Marlins for the final game of this 3-game series. Giants have a chance to win the series with a victory, and they'll give the ball to their ace. Logan Webb is on the mound today up against this Miami team. I'm Dave Fleming along with John Miller. Full pregame show to come. It's the Giants and the Marlins baseball on the radio.
Hey, everybody. It is September 1st in Giants history, and September 1st means a lot because this next month means a lot of baseball memories. September stories are some of the best. So let's get going. September 1st, 2001. The Giants are taking on the Colorado Rockies. They're in the hunt. They need wins. They're trailing the Rockies, though, 1-0, eighth inning, Pac Bell Park. Kids, we used to call it Pac Bell Park. The Giants tie it up with an RBI double by Pedro Feliz. Now we go bottom 9. Justin Spire, the son of former Giant great Chris Spire, is